Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome to the Reverb Common Sense, where we do not outsource reality to talking points, and we do not pretend chaos is compassion. Tonight, everything connects. We are watching a coordinated effort to dismantle immigration enforcement. But not through law, not through debate, but through pressure, distortion, and fear. When the public finally pushes back, when polls show Americans rejecting anti-ICE agitators and their so-called legal observers, the response from the left is not reflection. It is escalation. Democrats are now openly threatening a government shutdown by blocking DHS funding in the aftermath of the Minnesota ICE shooting, not to protect agents, not to restore order, but to weaponize tragedy as leverage against enforcement itself. At the same time, Minnesota's own Attorney General previously argued there is no right to carry a firearm at a political rally or protest, a claim that raises serious constitutional questions when violence, intimidation, and riots are treated as protected expressions. Then we hear it straight from the top of Minneapolis law enforcement. Whether a shooting is legally justified no longer matters because people are upset. Their feelings are hurt. Law, evidence, and due process are secondary to public emotion. That is not justice. That is rule by mob sentiment. And when federal agents are assaulted in the street, when one has his finger bitten off by a rioter, the silence is deafening. No emergency sessions, no breathless media cover outrage. Just excuses, deflection, and moral inversion. Even internationally, the picture is clear. While America debates whether to enforce its own laws is offensive, hostile regimes prepare for confrontation, retreating into bunkers while betting that American leadership is paralyzed by its own internal sabotage. This is not a series of isolated headlines. This is a pattern. Power without accountability. Enforcement without support. Law without a backbone. Now, before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us push through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. This is the Reverb Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Don't forget also tonight, Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean airs tonight, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this one is worth staying up for. They all are, but this one especially. Sean will have a special guest and is doing a deep dive into Minnesota's so-called protest financing, where the money is coming from and who's really behind it. Fair warning, you're probably not going to like the answer, and you may very well be surprised by just how organized and well-funded this actually is. That's Edge of Liberty tonight, right here on SHR Media, conservativemedia.com. Don't miss it. So let's start out. The anti-ICE agitators and legal observers are losing strong majority of public support. Despite sustained activist pressure, aggressive protest campaigns, and escalating political opposition, a clear majority of Americans continue to support United States immigration and customs enforcement and believe its agents should be allowed to carry out their duties without interference. Newly released polling data from Plymouth Union Public Research reinforces a reality that often gets buried beneath headlines, social media outrage. The public is not rejecting immigration enforcement. It is not siding with those attempting to obstruct federal officers. According to the national survey, 57% of Americans 57% of Americans believe ICE agents should be able to do their job without being impeded or harassed. The poll measured attitudes towards immigration enforcement and deportation operations, as well as opinions regarding organized efforts designed to obstruct federal officers. The results point to broad public backing for enforcement activity and limited sympathy for anti-ICE agitation, even as political rhetoric around the issue grows more heated. And just for the naysayers that are going, you're blowing smoke up our ass, you're lying, all the normal bullshit. This came from an Axio article. Not Fox News, not Breitbart, not any of conservative media. This came from Axio. Think about that. The structure of the poll itself undercuts attempts to dismiss the findings as partisan or narrow. Plymouth Union Public Research surveyed 1,000 likely general election voters nationwide with a margin of error of 3.1%. The sample was evenly divided, with Republicans and Democrats each comprising 40% of respondents, and independents making up a remaining 20%. This was not a skewered audience or an ideological bubble. It was a cross-section of the electorate. And across that electorate, support for enforcement remain strong. Let me say that again. Support for enforcement remained strong. The survey found that voters largely view illegal immigration as a serious issue and approve of the current enforcement approach. Again, this is Axio, a left-leaning site, is running with this article. Respondents broadly indicated that illegal immigration is a problem President Trump is properly addressing. The findings also noted openness towards enforcement measures, particularly efforts aimed at disrupting cartels and holding foreign actors accountable. These responses reflect a practical view of immigration enforcement as a matter of public safety and national sovereignty rather than ideology. Importantly, support did not stop at abstract policy approval. It extended directly to the officers responsible for enforcing those policies. The survey emphasized that voters express respect for ICE officers and believe they should be allowed to do their job. In contrast, organized efforts to obstruct enforcement drew limited sympathy and appeared confined to a small but vocal minority. Organized efforts to obstruct enforcement drew limited sympathy and appeared confined to a small but vocal minority. In other words, it is a small group, but they are loud. This distraction is just that, a distraction. This distinction matters because much of the political and media conversations attempts to portray opposition to ICE as a broad base and representative when polling consistently suggests otherwise. When respondents were asked about priorities, 74% said fighting illegal immigration is an important issue for both the president and Congress to address. Only 7% described the issue as not important at all. 7% said it was not important. Small. SMall. That disparity underscores how disconnected activist messaging is from public sentiment. While demonstrations and lawsuits generate attention, they do not reflect the priorities of most voters. The polls also captured public recognition of the dangers ICE agents face. 58% of respondents said ICE agents put their lives on the line to keep the public safe. 57% described their work as a dangerous job protecting communities from violent criminals. A narrow majority, 91%, explicitly approved of using ICE to combat illegal immigration. These responses indicate that Americans understand enforcement is not theoretically. It is involved real risk, real confrontation, and real consequences. The timing of the survey is significant. It comes amid heightened tensions following a deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis earlier this month. According to reporting, Renee Good was shot by an ICE officer during an enforcement operation after she obstructed the operation and appeared to drive into an agent, prompting defensive gunfire. That incident quickly became a flashpoint targeting protests in Minneapolis and other cities. Minnesota Democrats filed suits seeking to remove ICE agents from the state. By the way, that got overturned today. And congressional Democrats threatened to withhold funding unless sweeping reforms were enacted. Despite the intense of the reaction, the polling suggests that this opposition does not reflect the majority public sentiment. Activists visibly has not translated into widespread public support. Instead, the survey indicates that most Americans continue to back enforcement and oppose efforts to obstruct ICE operations. Other polling has suggested variations in intensity, particularly among independent voters. Internal GOP polling reviewed earlier this month reportedly it found 60% of independents and 58% of undecided voters believe President Trump was too focused on deportation. However, that does not contract to the Plymouth Union findings. Voters can express concern about emphasis or tone while still supporting enforcement in principle. The distinction between messaging fatigue and policy rejection is often lost in political discord. Taken together, the data paints a clear picture. Americans continue to support immigration enforcement, respect the agent's task with carrying it out, and reject organized obstruction efforts. While protests and political pressure dominate media coverage, they do not represent the majority view. The center of the public opinion continues to favor enforcement, public safety, and allowing federal officers to do their job without interference. Again, this was from a Axio article. Axio, not me, not any conservative, a liberal. Sorry, just looking through some information, and there's actually, I want to see if I saved it. I think I did save it. Some CNN polls. Yes, here it is. Let me pop this up. I want to pop this up for those that think it's just the right-wing messaging and that all that bullshit. Because we're going to dispel it. Because this is CNN. All right. Let's throw this up.
Yeah, sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%.
Do you notice one thing in the question? Anybody? All that are here illegally, not just a criminal, all illegals. That's all it asks.
CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across four different pollsters. Feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally, want immigration levels decreased. This includes legal and
the polls are showing it, and it's not conservative media that is showing it. It is liberal media is showing that the American people want this immigration issue fixed. They want the illegals out of here. They broke the law getting here. That's where I have the issue. They broke the law getting here. Overstay, that's a little bit of different conversation, but I'm talking ones that came across these borders illegally. They broke federal law, period. End of subject. There is no compassion. There's no nothing. They broke the law because that tells me if they're willing to break the law to get what they want in this country, what other laws are they going to break when they're in this country to get what they want? And don't give me that, oh, they have the lowest crime rate. No, they don't. Number one, every one of them are a criminal. Number two, they don't call the cops for fear of getting deported. So a lot of crime in the illegal communities does not get reported. One of the things I was warned when I first moved down here to Florida, there's a town real close called Plant City. It has a high illegal Hispanic population. I was told you don't fuck with them because they'll slit your throat in a heartbeat because they know they're just going to get deported and they'll come right back. That's not every single one. I'm not calling them all murderers, rapists, and all that. But they don't care. A lot of them don't because they know they're just going to get sent back to their country for the most part, and then they'll come back in. I want legal immigration. Don't tell me, well, who's going to pick our fruit? We have specific immigration to come here just for that. And then they're here legally. They are protected by the law. They are protected by workers' laws. They can't get mistreated. Come here the proper way. Show you want to be a part of it. Then I don't care. I'm tired of the illegals. They need to be sent back out of the country. I don't care. White, black, pink, purple, green. I don't give a flying fuck. But we do have a large population, as they say, of the brown people. Because what big country is just to the south of us that comes in here illegally? It's a large population of Hispanic. Well, so that tells you, yeah, a large population that we're going to be deporting right now is of the brown persuasion. So facts are facts, people. Oh, where are we at? Oh, it's that time already. Time flies when you're having fun. All right, we're just getting started, folks. This is the anatomy of modern political warfare, and we're only going to peel back the first layer. Don't go away. We'll be right back right after this message, if I can get it to pop up.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional. But it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And this is the Reaver Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. Don't forget, coming up tonight is Edge of Liberty with Zackhead Sean, which airs at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is one worth staying up for. Always worth staying up for, but tonight's extra special. He does have a special guest, and is doing a deep dive into Minnesota's so-called protest financing, where the money is coming from and who's really behind it. Fair warning, you're probably not going to like the answer, and you may very well be surprised by just how well organized this is and well funded this actually is. So that's Edge of Liberty tonight, right here on SHR Media. Don't miss it. Trying to find out, there's an article on SHR Media, and one of the things it did is it compares the stats of the Obama administration on deportation to Donald Trump. And one of the parts that it goes over is, now I can't find it. But it goes over the stats, like, actually, I know where I can get that. Just give me 1 second. Now I won't be able to find that, bet you. Here it is. Going to go over some stats of the ICE mistaken detention error rate. It's really amazing the difference between the two administrations, between mistaken deportation of U.S. citizens, and they didn't keep track under Biden, so I can't give you those numbers. I cannot find those numbers. But ICE mistaken deportation or detention error rates under Trump, it is 0.0067%. Under Obama, 0.0225%. That's a big difference. Obama had a higher rate of mistaken detention errors. What people are being misinformed on what's going on out in the street. Yes, there's U.S. citizens being arrested. They're not being arrested because they think they're illegals. They're being arrested for interference, for obstructing law enforcement. That's why American citizens are getting arrested, not because of detention, because due to immigration status. The media has twisted that, and people have been so mind-numbing, just gullible, they fall for it. Then there's the deaths in ICE custody. All right, you got 0.0054% have died under Trump. Obama, 0.0070%. Again, it's not mistreatment. Some of these people have health issues. They're getting better care than some Americans are. They're getting better care than most of our veterans are. But again, the media plays to the heartstrings, twists the narrative, and people are so gullible and hate Trump that they'll believe anything that is spewed their way. Mistaken deportations of U.S. citizens. Trump, 0. Obama, 4. These are stats that are out there. There's articles. But I know there will be people that will be so blinded by their hate, they will not care about facts. They will deny it just so that they continue to hate or continue to spread misinformation. Trump sending border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota to review ICE operations. Right now, there's a rumor running around that Bovine has been relieved. He has not. He's being moved on to the next state. I don't know which state it is. He's moving on out of Minnesota, but he has not been relieved of command. It is a liberal wet dream, and they do it all the time. They do it all the time. They give out these fake reports and try to start issues where there is none because they don't have facts on their side, people. But he's being sent to oversee the ICE enforcement operation on the ground. The move comes as ICE enforcement actions in the state are being met with far-left demonstrations, political resistance, and growing unrest. Trump announced the decision Monday morning in a Truth Social post, making clear that this was not a symbolic visit or a listening tour. According to the president, Homan will arrive in Minnesota immediately and report directly back to the White House. Trump described Homan as a tough but fair. Remember, Obama gave him a medal for his immigration policies. Remember that. Tom Homan worked for Obama and did deportations under Obama, was given a medal. He's doing the exact same thing that he did under Obama, but Democrats don't like it. Emphasizing that while Homan was not previously been involved in Minnesota operation, he knows many of the personnel there and will take direct command of enforcement oversight. The message from the administration is straightforward. Federal law will be enforced, regardless of local political pressure. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reinforced that point, stating that Homan will manage ICE operations on the ground to continue arresting what she described as the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens. In other words, this is not about broad sweeps or random enforcements. It is about targeted individuals with criminal records who are already in the system. But immigration enforcement is only part of the story. Trump tied Homan's deployment to a much larger issue unfolding in Minnesota, what he described as massive welfare fraud totaling more than $20 billion. This is what these protests are actually protecting. To try to cover up $20 billion in taxpayer money. And people are just lining up, buying the narrative from the liberal media and trying to cover up this fraud. In his post, the president suggested that this fraud is at least partially responsible for the violence, organized protests taking place in the street. And it's more than organized, it is paid protesting. The implication is clear. The unrest is not spontaneous. It is connected to entrenched corruption, financial abuse of taxpayer-funded programs. Levitt echoed that framing, noting that Holman will also coordinate with investigators looking into widespread fraud that allegedly siphoned billions of dollars, billions from law-abiding citizens. So when you fight this, you're fighting for money to be taken out of your pocket fraudulently. If you got that much money to waste, try donating to a charity instead. This places Minnesota at the intersection of two federal justice and Congress are reviewing Ilhan Omar. She is now under investigation by the DOJ. Trump referenced reporting claiming of Omar left Somalia with nothing and is now allegedly worth more than $44 million. In 1 year, she bumped up on her worth. While no filings were detailed in the post, the inclusion of Omar underscores the administration's broader message that political power in Minnesota is being examined alongside enforcement failures. This announcement followed an even sharper message Trump issued Sunday night, directly calling on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, among other Democrats, to enforce federal laws in coordination with the Trump administration. Trump laid out a specific list of actions he expects states and local officials to take. 1 second. First, Trump demanded that Minnesota turn over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated in state prisons and jail, as well as those with active warrants or known criminal histories, for immediate deportation. Second, he called on state and local law enforcement to agree to turn over all illegal aliens arrested by local police. Third, he insisted that local police assist federal authorities in apprehending and detaining illegal aliens wanted for crimes. Finally, Trump urged Democratic officials to partner with the federal government to protect American citizens through rapid removal of criminal illegal aliens, pointing to cities where cooperation has already led to safer streets. Trump's contrasted Minnesota resistance with examples from other Democrat-led jurisdictions that have cooperated with federal authorities. And according to the president, those partnerships have produced tangible improvement in public safety. The implication is Minnesota's current turmoil is a choice, not an inevitability. The president also renewed his call for Congress to pass legislation ending sanctuary cities, which he described as the root cause of many of these problems. Trump argued that American cities should function as safe sanctuaries for law-abiding citizens, not illegal alien criminals who have broken the law. He framed this position not as ideological, but as common sense. Throughout his statement, Trump emphasized that the administration is prepared to work with any Democrat willing to enforce the law and prioritize public safety. The door, he said, is open. What he will not accept is obstruction, delay, selective enforcement driven by political ideology. Sending Tom home to Minnesota is a signal that patience has worn thin. It reflects a belief within the administration that federal authorities must step in when state and local governments refuse to cooperate. Whether Minnesota officials choose confrontation or coordination will determine what happens next. For now, the message from the White House is unmistakable. Enforcement is continuing, investigations are expanding, and the federal government is no longer waiting on permission from local leaders to act. Oh, man. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. All I ask is to be respectful. That's all. Have a difference in opinion. Be constructive. But I want to thank everybody that has been watching, everybody that's in the chat room. I want to thank our moderators. I'm pretty sure it's getting hectic in there. So let's also, let me see what, track every lie Democrats and media invented to demonize immigration agents. For years, immigration enforcement officials have been deliberately cast as political villains in the national debate. U.S. ICE agents, Border Patrol officers, are routinely portrayed by Democrats and aligned media outlets as abusive, criminal, or authoritarian. Lawful enforcement actions are refamed as human rights violation. Even when later facts contradict those claims, this pattern did not emerge organically. It was built, repeated, and weaponized. That strategy intensified after the 2024 election, when border enforcement and deporting criminal illegal aliens became central to President Donald J. Trump's agenda and were rewarded by the voters. Since then, political opponents and sympathetic media have escalated a campaign of narrative warfare. The objective is not accountability or oversight. It is delegitimization. Federal agents are cast as monsters, and enforcement itself is treated as immoral by definition. Those narratives have produced real-world consequences. ICE facilities have been targeted. Federal agents have been assaulted. False kidnapping reports have flooded 911 lines. And in at least one incident, the rhetoric surrounding enforcement escalated into lethal violence. Against that backdrop, it is necessary to examine how these narratives are constructed and sustained. One of the most prominent examples involved the claim that ICE agents used a 5-year-old child as bait to lure his father outside. Social media and corporate outlets alleged agents forced the child to knock on his own door. DHS later clarified that the father fled arrest, abandoning his 5-year-old child. And they made up excuses to protect that father that abandoned his child, who said, fuck my child, my ass is more important than that. He abandoned his child. Officials stated agitators frightened the child, alleged mother refused custody. The mother refused custody, and agents safeguarded him. Vice President J.D. Vance publicly confirmed that the child was never arrested. Nevertheless, the initial claims spread far wider than the correction. Oh, this is the last segment coming up. We're going to go to break real quick. Oh, boy. Just remember, we're just getting started, folks. This is the anatomy of political warfare. We're only going to peel back. Oh, I think we're on the second layer. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat.
Just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern, freedom has made America
Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Reaver of Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every clip helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. Don't forget, coming up in just over an hour from now, Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this one is worth staying up for. As I have said multiple times, every show of Sackhead Sean, in fact, every show of SHR Media, is worth staying up for. Sackhead Sean will have a special guest and is doing a deep dive into Minnesota's so-called protest financing, where the money is coming from and who's really behind it. Fair warning, I know liberals aren't going to be liking this, and they're not going to like the answer. And you may very well be surprised just how organized and how well funded this actually is. The Edge of Liberty tonight, right here on SHR Media, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do not miss it. So we're going over the lies of the media that have been in the just push lately. Talking about that 5-year-old used as bait, and they arrested him. No, they didn't. They didn't do none of that. The father abandoned the child. And what would they have done if they didn't do anything for that child? It would have been, oh, look at that. They scared off the father, and they abandoned the 5-year-old in the snow. They took care of the child. They gave the child care and comfort. And a similar rush to judgment followed a shooting involved in a Border Patrol-linked officer in Portland. Democrat officials quickly condemned immigration enforcement. Later, DHS disclosure stated suspects attempted to run agents over with a vehicle, prompting defensive gunfire. And authorities identified both suspects as gang affiliation. As with many cases, political outrage arrived first, while corrective facts arrived later and received far, far, far left attention. In Minneapolis, early coverage described a shooting victim as an innocent legal observer. Upon video footage showed the individual standing in the street amid agent, blocking traffic and making contact with an ICE vehicle during a tense enforcement operation. While live footage suggested the individual may have been documenting rather than instigating, critics questioned why early reporting ignored visual evidence that complicated the official narrative. The result was intensified public anger in a city already on edge. Another reoccurring narrative involved claims that ICE forcibly detained U.S. citizens and widely reported traffic stops. Outlets emphasized force while minimizing the individual's refusal to identify herself or comply with lawful orders. DHS later explained that she was driving a vehicle belonging to her illegal alien boyfriend and was released after compliance. The clarification received a fraction of the attention given to the original framing. Political rhetoric compounded the problem. Minnesota Police Chief Brian O'Hare urged residents call 911 on masked individuals they believed might be kidnapping people, following accusations that ICE racially targeted Somali residents. That message fueled panic and resulted in false emergency call tied to routine enforcement actions, diverting resources and escalating fear. Holiday coverage followed the same template. Over Thanksgiving, outlets ran emotional stories about a 19-year-old Honduran national detained while traveling, highlighting timing and personal aspiration while downplaying the fact that deportation orders dated back to 2015. Sympathy dominated, legal context was minimized. And again, I want to throw out a thank you for everybody in the chat, everybody listening, especially our moderators. Again, all I ask is respect and to act like adults. SHR Media will not put up with certain statements. We won't put up with all caps. So if you want to be here and have a conversation, great. We welcome it, but be respectful. The New Yorker's portrayal of the Orville Latorian has similarly framed his deportation as a mysterious disappearance to a foreign prison. Later reporting acknowledged his conviction for armed robbery and murder, which provided legal grounds for deportation. Even so, the initial framing continued to shape public perception. Claims that ICE arrested a preschool teacher without a warrant were amplified by Democratic lawmakers. DHS later stated the woman illegally crossed the border, fled a traffic stop, and barricaded herself inside a daycare, placing children at risk. Despite that clarification, much of the discussion remained anchored to the original allegation. Even when corrected and facts come out, they still hide behind the lies. And that is one of the major issues that I have. And even when they do corrections, it's, page 400, one paragraph. Drives me up a wall. Viral video narratives followed the same arc. A video alleging an ICE agent beat an innocent man in Illinois omitted context. DHS said showed the suspect physically assaulted agents, grabbed one officer by the genitalia, prompting defensive force. Coverage of the detained teen in Boston emphasized asylum status and age while omitting DHS claims of a violent record, weapons possession. CNN's claim that ICE zip-tied children relied on an image later proven fake and unrelated to immigration enforcement. Others' examples reinforce the pattern. Media framed the arrest of Des Moines school superintendent as shocking overreach, while ICE stated the individual worked illegally, possessed a firearm, and attempted to evade arrest. Coverage of Utah Symphony music focused on artistry while downplaying visa overstay and a prior DUI. A California woman falsely claimed she was kidnapped by bounty hunters tied to immigration enforcement, only for investigators to determine the incident was staged. By the time charges were filed, the narrative had already spread. Officials also falsely labeled criminal drug and money laundering investigation at Minneapolis Mexican restaurant as a ICE raid, targeting protest until the county sheriff corrected the record and rebuked elected officials for spreading misinformation. Media portrayed the arrest of a Californian man as brutality against a father of Marines, while DHS stated he attempted to evade arrest, threatened agents with a weed whacker. Reports describing a deported Maryland father emphasized legal protection, while DHS cited illegal entry and documented MS-13 ties. Some of the most damaging false narratives predate the cycle. Claims that Border Patrol agents whipped migrants in 2021 collapsed after investigation found zero evidence. Even the photographer stated he never witnessed whipping. Allegation of mass hysterectomies at an ICE facility spread on cable news before investigations found no supporting evidence, eventually leading to a $30 million settlement tied to the reporting. CNN and MSNBC settled with this doctor for false reporting. You never hear about that one, but you hear about Fox's reporting on 2020 in that lawsuit. CNN has gotten sued multiple times for multiple $1 million by several people. Taken together, these cases reveal a consistent pattern. Emotional claims are amplified quickly, political outrage follows, correction arrives late, if at all. Even when facts emerge, original narratives linger. And this is not accidental. It is a strategy that treats immigration agents as expendable symbols in a broader political fight. It just blows my mind. There's a report that Iran's leader has fled to a fortified bunker fearing U.S. strikes. It is reported up to, I think it's 35,000 people have been killed now. They're going into hospitals and killing people. They're killing protesters in the hospital, shoving live people into body bags. But a revealing development is unfolding inside Iran, and it says far more about the regime's real condition than any political speech ever could. According to reporting by Iran International, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, or whatever the hell his name is, I don't really care if I said it wrong, has relocated to a heavily fortified underground bunker in Tehran amid rising fears of a possible U.S. military strike. Sources close to the regime describe the move as precautionary, but the details suggest something deeper: anxiety at the highest level of power. The compound is reportedly a hardened bunker network with interconnected tunnels designed to protect leadership, ensure continuity in the event of an attack. This is not symbolic security. This is a contingency plan. Even more telling is Khamenei's third son, I'm not even going to try that one, has reportedly taken over day-to-day operation of the Supreme Leader's office, serving as the primary link between Iran's leadership and government ministries. Power is not just being protected, it's being consolidated inside the family. We have, I believe, an aircraft carrier strike group is now over there. Time is it? Where are we at? Getting close to the end. Federal agents' finger bitten off by alleged Minneapolis rioter. There's a moment in every public debate when the rhetoric collapses under the weight of reality, and this is one of those moments. A federal agent has reportedly had his finger bitten off. Think of that. His finger was bitten off during a confrontation with a peaceful protester, alleged rioter in Minneapolis. Strip away the politics, the slogan, and the hashtags, and what you are left with is something raw and undeniable. Law enforcement officers permanently injured while performing official duties amid civil unrest. This is not metaphorical violence. This is not rhetorical excuse. This is physical, irreversible harm. And yet in the broader conversation surrounding immigration enforcement and protests, incidents like this are often minimized, reframed, or quietly ignored because they disrupt a preferred narrative. It is difficult to portray federal agents as oppressors when they are the ones being maimed in the street. But you hear about a woman that goes and tells a story that she was shot in the hand and her hand's disabled and yada, yada, yada. But ends up, the truth was she picked up a flash grenade to throw it back at the police, and the flash grenade went off in her hand. Anybody with half a brain knows you don't pick those things up once they are activated. That was just dumb on her, and she caused it herself. And that's the problem. These injuries that are happening to a lot of these rioters and obstructionists, they're bringing it on themselves. I don't want to see anybody injured. I don't want to see anybody killed. But you're bringing it upon yourself. It is not being forced on you. These are choices that they are making. And they're not smart. They're emotional. By false reports. Time and time again. According to reporting, the incident occurred during unrest tied to anti-ICE demonstration in Minneapolis. Federal officials were operating in a volatile demonstration in Minneapolis. Operating in a volatile environment fueled by weeks of inflammatory rhetoric, misinformation, and political signaling that framed enforcement action as illegitimate or criminal. In that environment, physical confrontation was not just possible, it was predictable. What matters here is not just the act itself, but what it represents. Biting off a finger is not accidental. It is not defensive flailing. It is deliberate, it's extreme, and violent, and it underscores how far certain segments of protest culture have drifted from anything resembling peaceful dissent. This is no longer about speech or assembly. This is about assault. Oh, well, it's getting that time, and nothing we covered tonight exists in a vacuum. They were not disconnected stories. stray headlines, or isolated failures. Every segment pointed back to the same underlying problem: power without accountability. We saw how enforcement is undermined when politics overrides law. We saw how violence is minimized or excused depending on who commits it. We saw how media narratives are shaped not to inform, but to protect favored outcomes and shield favored actors. And we saw how public institutions hesitate, deflect, or fracture when consequences are supposed to follow. This is not confusion, it is a pattern. And when accountability is delayed, avoided, or selectively applied, systems begin to rot. When leaders are insulated from consequences, public trust collapses. When laws are enforced unevenly, fairness becomes a slogan instead of a standard. And when narratives replace facts, reality becomes negotiable. Borders matter because sovereignty matters. Enforcement matters because safety matters. Accountability matters because without it, nothing else holds. The most dangerous phase is not chaos. It is normalization. When the public is trained to expect double standards, excuses, and endless justifications, accountability stops being demanded at all. This is how institutions fail quietly before they fail completely. The truth is not complicated. Equal application of laws matter. Outcome matter more than rhetoric. Responsibility matters more than ideology, and no system survives when accountability is treated as optional. When those principles are ignored, instability follows. When they are defended, order endures. You want more from SHR Media? Tonight, Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean. That's Monday and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. BZ Berserk Bobcat Saloon Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, you have Mission Ready Men with Big E Jackson every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, noon on the East Coast. And of course, me, Reaver Common Sense. I'm Jersey Joe, Mondays and Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is where we leave it tonight. This is the Reaver of Common Sense, where truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Good night, Patriots. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and never let them rewrite reality while you're watching.